Hey everyone, this is Britton here for Blue Manor Academy. For those of you guys who are new to the group, welcome. This group's growing really fast. For those of you who don't know, I'm a little sick. Man, there we go. I'm a little sick still. I think I have the coronavirus. I'm not joking, actually. There was an epidemic next to our town, and I'm better, absolutely, but I still have a lingering cold. So I'm going to take a cough drop. It makes me talk a little weird. My daughter and wife said I was whistling last time. I'm sorry. I'm doing the best I can. Stay with you guys. Today I want to address two really quick admin things. I want this to be a little bit more focused, and so I think the best format is going to be, we're going to do Wednesdays, we're going to do a topic. We're talking about learning flow today. You guys can ask tons of questions about that topic, hopefully. And then I will answer those on Friday. Because on Friday I had a different topic in mind, and then I tried to answer questions, and then it got all crazy. So that'll be our formatting. Ask questions. I may not get to them right away, especially when you put questions below in the answers. I really prefer to think about that, process it, and then come back and give my answer live, actually. I feel like I can give a little bit better answer than answering it in the comment section. So that'll be the new formatting. Wednesday is our special topic day. Friday is question and answers. If I don't get a bunch of questions in these talks, then I'll go through the list of questions when you guys signed up, and I'll use those and address those. All right, so today we're going to talk about learning flow. Learning flow is really important. The public schools have no learning flow. It's one of the many reasons that they're learning proofed. So little learning goes on in public school systems. I don't mean that offensively. I just mean in reality, kids go through a 13-year system and then they can't name the first president. They don't know any countries. You think, man, 13 years of education, you don't know anything. One of those issues is block lessons. We've already addressed that. I talk about that in the book. I want to talk about something new today that really wasn't in the book. For those who don't know, education. This is the Art of Raising Children for Greatness series. I do talk about some about learning flow in here with block lessons, but going a little bit more detail. And then I do talk about how schools are learning proofed in Revealing School, which is the first book of the Art of Raising Children for Greatness series. Okay, learning flow. Public schools have no learning flow. When you start off your day, let's say you go to school, you start off with math. Maybe it's not a good time to study math, your first class of the day. You're super tired. I am that way. I don't think analytically in the morning. I really struggle in the morning. So you start off with math, it's not really working. The next class is gym. So you go from analytical thinking math, you're just starting to get warmed up, solving your math problems, you put it away. Now you're not even thinking, you're running around a track, you're all wound up, you're excited, you're socializing with your friends, so you're in a totally different mindset. And then you go from gym class, let's say, to chemistry. You go from that hyped up excitement, you're with your friends, you got these endorphins, your heart is pumping, you're all sweaty. Now you have to sit down and study chemistry, which is super boring. And how do you do that coming off a gym class? It doesn't make any sense. When you get done with chemistry, you just start getting warmed up because it takes 15, 20, 30 minutes maybe to get warmed up. I'm talking about high school maybe, probably not your preschoolers. You go from chemistry and then you take a lunch break. Now you eat a ton of lunch, you're socializing again, you're all wound up, but actually what happens is you eat a big meal, all that blood rushes to your stomach, and now you're a little bit tired. It's why some people take siestas after lunch. You're not thinking super clearly. You feel a little groggy. You're a little bit tired. You come off that endorphins of talking with your friends all wound up, and now you're super tired. And the next class is, let's say, creative writing. So now you go from that, and you're super tired, and you have to think creatively. And so, oh man, that's tough. So you're trying to get warmed up. You start, brainstorming a little bit. You just get going writing, and now the bell rings. It's over because of the schedule, not because you're done writing. It's over. You go to home ec. Now you're talking again, and it's not really academically heavy. You're in a totally different mindset with your friends. It's pretty easy going. You get kind of wound up with your friends again, and then boom, the bell rings. You're supposed to turn off that social aspect. You're going into history class. Sadly, history in school is really boring. I love history, but it's boring in school. So you're still kind of wound up. You're thinking about your friends, the conversations you're having, and then all of a sudden you're studying history. So, we have a question. From my own wife. Can be for preschoolers too. Yes, it can be for preschoolers too. I just meant chemistry. So there's no learning flow to that. That's crazy. It's a block schedule, 45 minutes. You're studying chemistry at this day, at this time, because it was predestined maybe 100 years before you were born. Like, that is the block schedule. It doesn't consider the child. It doesn't consider the situation. It's not strategic. It's insanity. And kids, you can't shift focus like that. You can't go from a creative mindset to an analytical mindset to a social mindset to a lethargic mindset, to back to a social mindset, back to an analytical mindset. It's pretty crazy. And so what really happens is it feels chaotic. You never feel like you're really there. You're focused on what you're doing because there's not enough time to get ready. And that's why very little learning happens in school. That's one of the reasons. As homeschoolers raising kids for greatness, we definitely don't want to repeat that in our own home. It's actually, I have a really interesting perspective because, again, we only think of school one way. We don't even know that we're recreating it, but we have those block schedules. So a lot of homeschoolers do the exact same thing. They plan out their year. I know people who plan out their year at the beginning and they lesson plan like every lesson, and they say, okay, at this time, at this place, we study this, and then we, for 45 minutes, and then we do this. Crazy, just duplicating the insanity of public school. There's no learning flow. But I had a really cool thing happen to me. Actually, it was really painful. So, hi Sharon. I went to a military boarding school, for those who know, a prep school in Virginia, if you don't know. And they had a totally different learning schedule. It was really interesting. It was super painful. It was the one subject plan. But it was good too, because it allowed for better learning flow. But what the one subject plan was, you took one subject, like algebra, let's say, and you studied it all day long for 7.5 weeks. And then you had 2 to 3, if it was an honors class, you had like 3 hours of homework. So the days were long. You might be doing 6 to 10 hours of math a day. It was super painful. To be honest, I don't recommend it, but it was really effective. But the cool thing was about the learning flow is they recognize it takes you a while to actually get into the math, the analytical mindset. So when you come into a class, if it's 45 minutes, it's 10 minutes of admin, you only have maybe 20 minutes of math or 30 minutes of math. Where if you do a block schedule like that, a one subject plan, you're able to get into it, get warmed up with your math for 30, 45 minutes, and then you're in that math analytical mindset for the rest of the day. So you can go really deep, and that's what their purpose was. They realized we can go so much deeper because the kid is in the mindset. The bell's not ringing, he's shifting intellectual gears constantly. He's just thinking about math. And then eventually, that goes away, and now they bring out creative writing. Then we studied creative writing. It was really cool because you're studying the poets and you're studying all these short stories, and you can read long novels, and that's your focus. You're just immersed in writing for the next 7.5 weeks. And you learn it very deep without, constantly shifting the mindset. And then you take a test, and you move on. I think that's actually a lot more effective than what they're doing in public schools. It's still block learning, which I talk about as not being good, because you shouldn't just study chemistry one time, boom, big block, boom, and then you never see it again. I did take chemistry at military boarding school, that prep school in Virginia, and I don't remember a whole lot. But I will say at the time, I learned it really well. It was really in depth, and we got to go a lot further. But what I'm really getting at is not recommending that you do that, but saying it opened my mind to the idea that you don't have to do 45-minute schedules. You don't have to teach every subject every day. You can be creative. There are no rules. Education is an art. And so when we started developing our program for Blue Manor Academy, we said, no, we're going to go even better. Like, the prep school really couldn't do perfect learning flow because it is still school. They have small classes, but they still have, quite a few students in there, and you still have to have some sort of routine or schedule for school. But when we do Blue Manor Academy, we said we're only going to do what's best for the learning. This has actually been really hard for us. I think I answer about 1,000 emails a year. That's an exaggeration. But I answer a lot of emails, and it's always homeschool moms saying, hey, we signed up for Blue Manor Academy. Like, what do I do? What's the daily schedule? What book should I study every day? And I always come back and say, follow the learning flow. Don't get bogged down in the details. Do not try to pre-plan your lessons for weeks and weeks and weeks. A lot of homeschooling sites and just education sites in general have taken the lesson planning to kind of that burden on themselves to try to make it easier for moms. And they say, okay, just teach this and this and this and this. It's actually not effective. It's a real burden because your life doesn't work that way. You have to have some sort of flow to it. So when we talk about learning flow at Blue Manor Academy, we give you the curriculum that we recommend. This is your core curriculum, and then there should be other things outside of that you're studying, but your core curriculum is here. Now have fun, chip away at it, using 2 principles for learning flow, 2 principles. One is inspiration and one is strategy. Be strategic. So when we talk about inspiration, the best time to study math is when your kid is inspired to study math. And these things go through waves, okay? Trust me, I'm an author. I've written this book. This is 450 pages. I've written this book. This is smaller. It's 130, but it's great. But I've actually written another 250-page book we're going to be releasing in a few months. I have another 250-page book. I write all the time, okay? I write in bursts. I can't sit down every single day and write. I'll lose my mind. It's so grueling. The last few days, I wanted to write a few chapters for this book. I couldn't do it. I just sat there, and it was so grueling. But that's what we're doing in public schools. That's what we do with block lessons. We're like, no, it is this time at this place you study this. It's counterproductive, and it makes learning so painful and so slow. So what I usually do is when I've kind of burned out on writing for a while, maybe I go work on the farm for a few weeks, or I trim things in the orchard, or maybe it's just a week or two. And I wait till my inspiration comes back, till I'm eager to get back to writing, and then I go for it. And then I'll just go for like a month, just write tons of great stuff, and then I take a break. So inspiration is so important. And I also think as your kids get older, it's important that they study for longer blocks, like I just talked about. We talk about short and sweet lessons for kids, preschool kids, like 5 minutes. But as your kid gets older, he might want to study math for 2 or 3 hours. And that's totally okay, because he's going to get in that analytical mindset. He's going to get warmed up, and then you just go and you go. And then he's going to get burned out sometime, and 5 minutes of math is going to be painful. And maybe that's a time to take a break. So we want to be inspired. That's the first principle. Follow inspiration. The second principle is strategic. Obviously, some kids are going to be inspired to not do school. They're going to be inspired to play video games all day or whatever. We can't just not let them or let them skip learning how to read or something. Or maybe they just hate history. They're never going to be inspired to do history. That is where you have to step in and say, okay, listen, we can set some sort of goals for you or something, but you actually have to study history. Whether you're inspired or not, you just need to make yourself inspired. You just need to do it. And then we have different strategies for motivating. It's in the book. Motivating your kids when they're not inspired. We've talked about primary motivators before. You can watch that video below. So I'm not going to get into that again. But we have to be strategic. And strategic is, first off, the content. You have to learn how to read. That's not an option, whether you're inspired or not. The second thing is you have a certain situation. You have a certain family. You have dynamics. What about your environment? Like, we live on a farm, so we do things differently. So education right now is, I don't know if it's sex ed, but it's the spring and the chickens are mating, so maybe we talk about the miracle of life. We're having lots of babies. We just had some baby goats, so now we're talking about how to take care of those and stuff. Like, that is our focus. The focus isn't math right now for most of my kids. It's agriculture, it's livestock. That's the focus because it's the spring. All winter we focused on the academic stuff. So we're being strategic. We're using our environment. The other thing we consider is our family goals. We are an education family. Like, that is our bread and butter. I illustrate books. Hopefully you've seen Dino Hunt. Dino Hunt is actually amazing. People love it. It's the first book, finally, that wasn't purely educational, that just took off. People love it. Poetry for boys, Dino Hunt. But we write books. Like, this is our family. So our focus, our educational focus, is a little bit geared differently. And I don't talk about this until the 4th book. So we have 2 more books that'll be out in the fall. So I won't get too much into that, but a career path. But that's being strategic. A political season, we're coming into the political season. We're strategically talking politics in our home. We're talking about elections. We're talking about our republic, our constitution, how things are set up, because it's relevant. So that's being strategic. If we were in normal public school, we'd be talking chemistry at this time. Well, we're not talking chemistry. I don't care if they do math right now. Like, we're focused on what's relevant. It's a great time to talk about it. That's being strategic. So use your brain. There's no A, B, C, D, step 1, 2, 3. Be strategic. Use your environment. Use what you're good at. Use your kids' passions and interests, and then build this thing. Morph it. Do not look for some cookie cutter plan. You cannot raise children for greatness using common standards. Common standards creates the mass mindset. That's not what we're looking for. You have to be strategic if you want to do this. You have to use your brain and use common sense. You can't always look for me for the answer. I will tell you the principles, and then you have to deploy them. I learned this in the military. We had a handbook. It's called the Ranger Handbook. And I remember a guy was like, this book is published, everybody can buy it. Our enemies can buy this book. And he's like, it doesn't matter. These are the principles. What makes you an elite soldier is how you deploy them based on your situation. Do you do a flanking movement? Do you retreat? Do you do an ambush? Do you call in a sniper? Like, you have all of these tools, and you have to piece them together strategically to take the enemy down. There's no pre-planned lesson. You can't get on the phone and be like, hey, I need step 1, 2, and 3 to take this guy down, because you're on the front lines. Like, You're the commanding sergeant, or you're the commanding officer. You're at the building. You have to make the command call because you have all the information, the environmental, situational information. You know your team. You know what your soldiers are capable. You have to make that command decision. The general can't do it. I'm not saying I'm the general, but think of it that way. Like, I'll give you the principles. You are the officers. You're deploying the strategies. Use your brain. Look at your environment. Look at your situation. Look at your extended family. Do you have people in your extended family that are architects or something? Your kids are interested in architecture, and maybe there's this opportunity to do this, or there's an opportunity to do that. We're having an epidemic, coronavirus. Maybe you study health. That's what your focus is right now, because in the news it's really interesting. It's affecting our lives. So anyway, that's it. That's my principle for today. Think about learning flow. If you guys have questions, let me know. There's just two things for learning flow: strategic and inspiration. And when you go to Blue Manor Academy, don't get lost because there isn't a schedule. Feel free to explore. That's what I want it to be. I don't want it to be regimented. You're not lost. You're in the right place. The curriculum's there. Now use strategy and inspiration to start picking your way through that curriculum. You can redo books. So if your kid finishes a book on Blue Manor Academy and he's like, oh, I want to read that book again, why not? I highly recommend it. In my opinion, and we'll have this someday, a kid should take a test 3 or 4 times. He's not passed once he knows his U.S. history. We want that kid to be tested again and again and again. There's no reason he shouldn't be rereading those books. They're never going to learn everything their first time through. So constantly, that's totally okay. If your kid wants to read the same 3 or 4 books for a while on Blue Manor Academy, that's fine. Now, if it gets excessive, then the strategy comes in. You say, okay, we got to curtail this inspiration a little bit, because you do have to learn to read, or you do have to do your math. But those are two important principles. They're not necessarily in the book. This book will get bigger later, or I'll put it in other books. I want to give you guys who have read the book, when you come here, I want to give you some new insights, things that should be in the book that will be in there later. But also, you people who haven't read the book, I want you to know that there's tons of great stuff in these books. Don't think you can come listen to the talks and, oh, I don't even need the book because he talks about it. No. There's so much. I could write volumes and volumes, but at some point we have to publish a book. So we put it out. Also, if you read the book, you haven't done a review, I really need reviews on Amazon. It's so hard. With Revealing School, it took years to get to 30 reviews. We're at 9 right now. I know it's probably not at your top of your priority list, but I'd really appreciate it. So anyway, ask your questions. I'll be back Friday. Friday, the topic will be your questions. I'll be answering any questions you have about learning flow or implementing it. And it's been great talking to you, and we'll talk to you soon. Talk to you later. Bye.